That's right, folks. Iron Fist is not just the name of my favorite BDSM dungeon, it's also a Marvel Netflix show. Is Season 2 better than its predecessor? Time to find out. Let's get started. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Hello, senseis and shifus one and all. Welcome to Thumb Together. My name is Andrew Fantasia, and today we're going to be talking about Iron Fist Season 2 together. As always, if you want to strengthen your inner chi and focus on finding your center, please feel free to raise your thumbs skyward and send positive vibes to the subscribe button as well. That always helps. Iron Fist Season 1. I didn't love it. A lot of people didn't. And I think that is the general consensus with Marvel Netflix overall. It's got its great stuff, and it's got its not so great stuff. But in the middle, there is like a nice healthy mix of fun, interconnected storytelling. And Iron Fist Season 2 was one of the ones that I was hoping would be on the higher scale of things. And guess what? I'm pleased to announce it is absolutely great. I'm laying my cards right here on the table. Iron Fist Season 2 was as good as the 2 seasons of Daredevil. This is Marvel Netflix operating in peak form. Now, who or what do we have to thank for this miraculous bump in quality? Well, a lot of things. Primarily, at least as far as I'm concerned, nobody deserves more thanks for this than whoever it was who decided to make this season shorter. With the exception of The Defenders, which was its own special little thing, all of the Marvel Netflix shows have had seasons that were 13 episodes long. Also, all of the Marvel Netflix shows had really bad pacing problems. There's a connection in there somewhere. Iron Fist Season 2 finally scrapped that idea and shortened it to a 10-episode season. And if that person who made that decision was in this room with me right now, I would stand up and shake their hand harder and fiercer than I have shaken anybody's hand in my life, because that solved so many problems. Oh my god. Pacing issues, gone. Completely gone. This story had a beginning, a middle, and an end. There wasn't a point where I was sitting there for 3 hours thinking, when are they gonna get to the point? Because it was always getting to the point. That's what I loved about this season. Iron Fist Season 2 always gets to the point. They don't waste time on frivolity because they have 3 hours they need to fill out. And you can tell, as good as other shows were, as good as Daredevil Seasons 1 and 2 were, you can tell there's a lot of parts where they're just filling in the gaps because Netflix ordered 13 episodes. There's only so many times I can see flashbacks of Matt Murdock hanging around with Elektra and being like, hey, you know what's fun? Stealing things together. There's only so many times you can watch that. But you know what? They showed us like 8 of those flashbacks. You know why? Because they needed to fill time. Thank frickin' Lord that was not the case here. Iron Fist did not need to fill time. It had 10 episodes. It breezed right through them. It carried the story along. Nothing felt stalled. Nothing felt delayed. They got to where they needed to go, and then the story finished. Thank you. Keep this up. Keep it 10 episodes, please. It is working so well. Another reason why Season 2 worked wonders for me was the villain. This is a little bit of a minor spoiler, just in case you don't want to know who the villain is, even though they make it pretty clear very early on. Hell, they made it pretty clear at the end of last season who the villain was going to be. So if you really don't want to know, close your eyes and plug your ears. But the villain of this season is Iron Fist's old bro from the Kunlun days, Mr. Davos. And Davos is a fantastic villain who manages the very difficult task of being both incredibly intimidating, a worthy successor for the hero, and at the same time, kind of sympathetic. And they juggle all of that really well. Part of what made Davos so scary is, you want to talk about somebody with a one-track mind. Davos has like the textbook definition of a one-track mind. He has a goal in his head, and he's such a hypocrite, and he breaks his own rules and his own philosophies to suit his own needs, but he can't see it because he's got these blinders on, to the point where he's just this raging monster who just plows forward and eliminates everything that's in his way. And, you know, Iron Fist has this past with him. He doesn't want to hurt this guy because they're like brothers from back in the day. But he's like, I have to hurt this guy because he is literally murdering everybody in his path. When shit gets real, in the middle of the season, Davos suddenly becomes even more threatening. And I'll do some spoilers later, but if you've seen it, you know what I mean. Davos steps up his game in a big way, and all of a sudden we're left wondering, okay, how the hell is Iron Fist going to beat this guy? Because this is not, just the run-of-the-mill gangster who knows kung fu. This is something much worse. And just the sheer tenacity that Davos has, where he's just laser focused on what he wants to do, and heaven help anybody who even looks at him the wrong way, it really makes this man, who was a good guy last season, it really makes him all the more frightening. Iron Fist spends so much of his time this season hoping and praying he can reason with Davos. But we see Davos doing his thing, and we're like, this is not a human who can be reasoned with by any stretch of the imagination. This is a brick wall. He's just gonna crush you. Like any good villain, I spent the whole time wondering, how are they going to beat this guy? And you know what? I thought the same thing about Thanos. So clearly they're doing something right here. And I mean, I know it's not saying much, but he's a hell of a better villain than this jackass. I want to know who thought that this performance was a good idea.
Hello. I am Bakudo. Trust me. I'm totally a good guy. Would this face lie to you?
Oh, that was a mess. The progression of the characters was another big plus for season 2. I mean, Colleen went from being, an already kick-ass hero to an even more kick-ass hero. She arguably took center stage this season. I think it's safe to say Colleen had more screen time than Dany did, which was really interesting but really welcome, because I personally like her better than Dany. Nothing against Dany, it's just Colleen rocks. To see her step up as a character and do things we don't expect and get involved in ways that we don't expect was a welcome treat. She spent a lot of the season teamed up with Misty Knight from the Luke Cage show, who crossed over here. And the two of them, if you're a fan of the comic books, those two have like their own series together. Looking back on the season, Colleen and Misty did more work together to stop the villains than Iron Fist does on his own. They just rocked it this season. You could have made the whole show about them and just had Dany as an afterthought. That's pretty much what happened. Another character who just exploded to the forefront of things in a cool way was Ward Meacham. And last season, Ward was just, he was kind of the, not villain, but he was not a good guy. He was just this slimy corporate douchebag. The first few episodes, you just did not like him at all. He was just the worst person you could think of. And he gained some sympathy points as time went on. But this season, I think Ward was my favorite character, because I love that all of that horrible stuff that happened in the past was in the past, and now he's friends with Dany, even though they have a history going on there. The relationship between Dany and Ward was really sweet. It was just a genuinely sweet friendship, and the whole time Ward is just on his side. His self-centeredness is for the most part gone, and he's lost at sea, and he spends a lot of the season going to like addict meetings. You can see that this is a man who is trying to help others before himself. And that was just such a nice character growth for me that I couldn't help but love what they did with Ward. And then especially the way Ward finishes the season off. Yeah, that was dope. Then there's our new character played by Alice Eve. I'm not going to spoil anything about this woman. However, I found that during the course of this season, whenever Alice was on screen, I could not take my eyes off of her. And it's not because Alice Eve is a very beautiful lady, which she is. She's gorgeous. But it's not for that reason. The reason being is that the performance Alice gives is friggin' mesmerizing, man. I mean, that's the kind of role that, as an actor myself, I look at a role like the role she played here and I'm like, damn, what a good role. What a fun character to step into. And she nailed it. This is a character, I'm not even going to tell you what the character's name is, but it is a character from the comics. It's somebody who's not really a household name. I'm familiar with her from the trading cards because that's how I know most of these characters. And I was surprised to see her here, but when I saw what they were doing with her and how they were taking their time with her, oh man, you gotta check out what she does, man. And consider this a minor spoiler if you will, but let me just say, I am very glad we're not done with this character, because there's a whole lot more to get into with her. Now it's time for me to talk about some really spoilery stuff. So if you've not seen to the end of Iron Fist, I implore you to stop listening and come back later. I'm so proud of what this season did because, like no other Netflix Marvel show has done, this changed the game in so many ways. And the biggest, foremost thing, of course, would be that Colleen now possesses the Iron Fist. And hers is white, and it looks cool, and she's got the katana now that she uses, and she channels the power into the katana. No other Netflix Marvel show has altered the face of its own little micro-universe more than the final episode of Iron Fist Season 2 did, while at the same time giving Danny Rand something new to do. And we see him and Ward a few months in the future in Asia, and they've been trotting around and fighting crime, and now he has the fists again, plural. He's got them both, and he's channeling it into these guns. It looks like the Iron Fist lore is truly coming alive. I never really read the Iron Fist comics, but I know that in recent years they really took a focused look on the fact that the Iron Fist is kind of like the Dalai Lama. You know, there's a new one every generation. They really dived into that in the show where, you know, there was an Iron Fist once upon a time who was known as the Pirate Queen of Pinghai Bay. And they allude to the fact that that's probably an ancestor of Colleen's. There's another character who they mention at the end of this season who was apparently an Iron Fist back in the day as well, Orson something or other. All of that lore is coming together, and it's promising, for me at least, I hope, a rich, heavily detailed third season. If we get what I hope we get, which is a bunch of characters who can all wield the fist and they all have different motives and aspirations and some of them aren't very nice, that could be interesting. Davos got the fists in the middle of this season, and he had that power, and he had the double red fists. He was like a Darth Maul with fists. And once Colleen got a bit of that power, they had their little fight. But the final battle with Davos, I'm going to admit, was a little bit underwhelming, especially because it was fist on fist, and I expected a little bit more of the powers to come into play, and they didn't. I'm hoping and praying that Season 3 is going to change that and have a whole bunch of fists running around with different assorted colors, punching holes in things that normally are too hard to be punched. And we also got a little taste of the costume, the classic costume this season, but it was a very little taste, and it wasn't 100% there. You know, they still had the white geese on. It just wasn't the same. Marvel's been great with giving us the proper costumes for characters. I hope we get to see Danny or Colleen or somebody in the full Iron Fist costume before all is said and done, because that would be awesome. Maybe save that for like Defenders Season 2 or something, but just let us see the costume just once before this is all over. So Iron Fist Season 2, you absolutely rock. If you've not seen the show yet, I promise you this is the best thing Marvel has done on Netflix since Daredevil. The chi is definitely strong with this one. But anyway, that has been Iron Fist Season 2. I'm Andrew Fantasia. Thank you so much for watching this review. I'll see you here next time. Until then, adios.